yes, thank you once again for joining me. As some of you may or may not know, my name is Alex, and today we are here to celebrate one of the all-time greatest film trilogies of all time. Yes, of course, as I'm sure you are all aware, I am talking about the Back to the Future trilogy. But why am I doing a Back to the Future special today? Well, I'm sure as all you Back to the Future fans know, today is the date that the Doc Brown and Marty McFly travel into the future. And that date is...
Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
That's right, October 21st, 2015. And isn't it wonderful that we have hoverboards and flying cars and Michael Jackson? Okay, so we don't actually have those things. Damn. However, there is a few things that the Back to the Future franchise predicted that did actually come true. For example, palm print technology, tablets,
Hey kid, I'm $100, will you?
paying for cash transactions with just your thumbprint, and surprisingly enough, Pepsi Max. Yes, interestingly enough, that is actually true, because when the film was released, there wasn't actually a brand called Pepsi Max. Pepsi only had Pepsi and Diet Pepsi. However, where the film is set in 30 years future, Pepsi offer 4 brands of their type of Coke, which includes Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Max, and of course Pepsi Perfect. Now Pepsi Max didn't actually come out in the UK until 1993, and then it was released in the US in 2007. So I would quite rightly say that Back to the Future 2 did actually predict Pepsi Max. But unfortunately, although it's great having that Pepsi Max flavour at our fingertips, they still didn't supply us with hoverboards, flying cars, and of course Michael Jackson is dead. Moving swiftly on, however, here are some interesting facts about the Back to the Future franchise. Did you know that before the main characters were cast, the guy who played the Karate Kid, aka Ralph Macchio, Ralph, yes, he was actually offered the part before anyone else, but unfortunately for him, he turned it down because he thought it was about, you ready for this, a car, a kid, and some plutonium pills. Poor guy. Also, then after he turned it down, the part was actually given to an actor called Eric Stoltz, and he actually did about 6 weeks worth of filming for the trilogy. However, unfortunately, again, for him, it just wasn't working, and so he was unfortunately sacked. Get out. But if you look closely in various parts of the original Back to the Future Part 1, he is actually still in the film. In the cafe scene in 1955, where Biff Tannen gets punched by Michael J. Fox, you will actually notice it isn't Michael J. Fox's punch that lands on Biff's face. No, it is in fact Eric Stoltz's fist. Who would have thought that, eh? Finally, another interesting fact about the Back to the Future franchise. Once the first film had been completed, there were no plans to make a sequel. But in Back to the Future Part 2 and Back to the Future Part 3, whenever we do catch a glimpse of George McFly, it is in fact a completely different actor wearing prosthetics to make him look like George McFly. Once Crispin Glover heard about this, he then tried to sue the studio for using his likeness without his permission and ended up winning an out-of-court settlement. Who would have thought today? Now, I love the Back to the Future franchise. It is one of my all-time top best films of all time. However, there are a few questions that I always wonder whilst watching these films. For example, in the first one, when Marty decides to go back in time 10 minutes early,
okay, 10 minutes ought to do it,
and warn Doc about the terrorists. Why 10 minutes? Why not say, hey, I'm gonna go back a week, or even just an hour early, and then just say, hey, Doc Brown, guess what? I'm really sorry to tell you this, but you're gonna get shot by terrorists. Okay, now in the second one, which is actually probably my favourite of the 3, you know when they're trying to get the book back off Biff, why don't they just get it off him when he's asleep? They know where he lives, just take it off when he's asleep. Then of course in the third one of the trilogy, which is where they get stuck in the Wild West, when Marty goes back from 1955 to 1885, that means there are 2 DeLoreans back in 1885. The one that Doc Brown arrived in, and of course the one that Marty arrived in. Why don't you just take the fuel out of the original car? And And there you go, see? That would be no need for a train. But then of course, there would be no great films, and of course every film, no matter how great, good or whatever it is, has its plot holes. So either way, they are all still great, fantastic films. And that's it, that sums up our little Back to the Future Day special. I hope you enjoyed this, and of course found those fascinating facts fascinating. If you did like this video, please show your appreciation by clicking subscribe, and of course, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comments below. And of course, until next time, thank you once again, don't forget to click subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you all at some point in the past. Just be thankful I didn't start talking about paradoxes. Still gutted that there's no hoverboards though.